petitioning the court for the visitation is a very scary process. And I'm going to be real on a couple things. Number one, historically, black men have not had the best relationship with the court system. So the idea of walking into the court as a petitioner and everything happening in that courtroom because you initiated it is a really different experience. What's up, family? And welcome back to the Dr. G.L. White Show. Now listen, as you know, this is not your average podcast. Around here, we have real talk, real conversations about real life situations like relationships, fatherhood, and purpose. All the things that make you laugh, love, and sometimes even make us lose our mind. So grab a glass, pull up a chair, have a seat, and let's get ready to have a real conversation. So let's talk about it. Let's get into it, and let's get involved. Every father wants to be involved with his child. Every father wants the right to pick up the child when he wants the right to participate in school activities. Every father who is connected or desired to be a better father than what his father was to him wants to be present at all the most important events that have taken place. Every father wants to welcome their child and see them get up in the morning and be there when they go to sleep. Ideally, that's a best case scenario, but in truth, that's not what we often see many times in relationships. What we're finding now, because so many children are being raised in single-parent, female-headed households, that a father's ability to be involved with his child has a lot to do with the relationship with the mother, as well as his child, both emotionally, physically, but more importantly, legally. And so I want to talk about all the calls and messages that I've been receiving from some of the podcasts and TikTok and other conversations I've had about fathers being involved. And the same question comes up is, well, what do I need to do? What do I do next? So I want to have a conversation just in this moment about some concrete things I think many of you need to do. First and foremost, let's talk about your legal status. Now, this legal status of fathers do tend to vary from many states. Georgia, for example, is among the last states to have some specific laws in terms of what fathers need to do to even get to the point of what other fathers may benefit from if they were either married to the mother or living in another state. So let me first of all just attack what really looks different. Being involved with your child beyond the emotional piece is this legal process. Oftentimes, it means that a father has to establish a legal relationship with that child. Now listen, I've been doing this work in helping fathers get access and visitation to their children and working with custodial parents around mediating and establishing healthy relationships. I've been doing this, you all, for 25 years. And here's what I've come to know is that we recognize the fact that to be involved with that child, the first thing a father has to do in Georgia, let me just start there. In Georgia, it's a 3-step process. He has to first establish the legal relationship with that child through paternity. And I'm going to talk about that in a moment. Then second, he has to do this thing called legitimize the child or make the child legitimate. And then the thirdly is what you'll see in other states, and that is he has to petition the courts for the right to be physically involved in his child in terms of visitation rights. So let's just take a look at this. First of all, fathers, number one is that you have to establish paternity. Now, oftentimes when we think about establishing paternity, we think about getting a DNA test. Yes, getting a DNA test is just one of the ways paternity is established. There are 2 other ways that paternity is also established, and they're not nowhere near as formal or official or concrete as a DNA test. And that is, number one, verbal acknowledgement. Oftentimes when men who are brought to court for served with child support and they say that I want to get a DNA test, oftentimes you're asked right on the spot if you acknowledge that the child is yours, and then they move forward with the child support. When that happens, Not realizing is that you have established paternity with that child. That means in that moment you have indicated that this is your legal child. Now, that's the same. What I'm saying is the same thing that happens in other states. When you verbally acknowledge that the child is yours, and then the courts and everyone moves forward with the assumption that that is your legal child. The other way paternity is often established is that if you were properly served to go to court and for whatever reason you didn't show, then the judge can establish paternity right then and there. Now, these two ways in which paternity is established, unlike a DNA test, is not met with a great deal of controversy. And what do I mean? Because there are so many cases that we've seen in court in which men discovered later on, after paying child support for years, that the child was not theirs. And then we've also seen cases where men have even come forward in wanting to sue the mother or challenge the court because they've been paying all this child support for years only to discover that the child is not theirs. Well, guess what? The fundamental argument that the courts and everyone make is that, no, you are the one who said the child was yours through verbal acknowledgement or because you were properly served and you failed to go. Regardless, paternity establishment is the first step in your journey to have any legal say-so or legal involvement with your child. Now that paternity is established, now I'm going to add this here before I go on to the establishment of the legitimation. Let me add this piece, is that getting paternity or petitioning the court, even on your own, for paternity can be met with challenges and some concerns. And you're going to see that in this phase 2 dealing with legitimation. So paternity is established. Now, even though it is established, you still don't have the legal right to be involved with your child, right? Because there's another step that has to take place. After paternity is established in Georgia, particularly, you have to petition the court to legitimize the child. Now, legitimation is the process of establishing a legal relationship between you and the child, allowing the child to inherit from you and allowing for you to inherit from the child. In many cases, it also involves allowing for a birth certificate to be changed, if the child does not have your last name, to be converted to your last name. And of course, that depends on whether or not a judge has made a determination that the child has taken a life on under this last name. But when we do it early, gentlemen, when we move forward early in trying to establish that legitimation, that is something that would definitely be reconsidered. And then it also is converted in terms of all the legal paperwork where the child now has your last name. But the legitimation is absolutely critical for a number of reasons. Legitimation is critical too because if something were to happen to you, if you were to have an untimely death or you were to become disabled or anything of that regard, any health or death benefits that would be awarded to your child can be met with challenges if you've not legitimized your child. Legitimation is also important because we've also seen cases, and you all listen to this, we've also seen cases in which a custodial parent has put a child up for adoption. Yes, I'm pausing for a moment. A child has been put up for adoption. And we're able to move forward because they made their due diligent effort to try to locate you because there was no paternity in place, because there's no child support in order or anything like that in place. Then the challenge is that they have moved forward with allowing that to take place. Now, I honestly will still challenge this because we have seen safe haven laws that have been enacted, not just in Georgia, but around the country, that allow for a mother of a newborn to leave a child at a hospital or fire department, police station, and not face any repercussions. And that child can be taken into foster care and given a new home. We've seen these things happen where the biological father has no earthly idea that he's now a father. So the legitimation process becomes absolutely important because even in those situations where a mother has lost custody or permanent or temporary custody of the child. If you have legitimated the child in the best interest of the child, or the first placement, best placement concept, that child would come to you. But without having that legal status, y'all hear me? Without that legal status, they can make a determination that it's in the best interest of that child to be in foster care or be with someone else. But when you've legitimized your child, then you have taken a position that says that this is my legal offspring. So you have paternity, then you move on to establishment of the legitimation, and then we move forward to seeking visitation. Now, this here is what we see occur in every state. The journey of moving to seek visitation is once again a process that you're going to file in court. Now, I'm going to tell you, I tell everyone, if you can afford an attorney, doggone to get a attorney. Do not show up in any court without an attorney, especially if the custodial parent has an attorney. Under no circumstances are you to ever walk into any courtroom without that legal representation. Now, listen, brothers, some of you might say, I don't have that kind of money. Listen, I'm going to tell you that the wrong decision can have 18 years worth of implication. So you may not be willing to come off of the $1,500, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, whatever needs to be done to ensure that you have representation, but failing to do that can result in 18, 19 years, first year in college. So yes, I'm going to tell you, make that decision to move forward. So now petitioning the court for the visitation is a very scary process. And I'm going to be real on a couple things. Number one, historically, Black men have not had the best relationship with the court system. So the idea of walking into the court as a petitioner and everything happening in that courtroom because you initiated it is a really different experience. But listen, it's something that you've got to do. Now, I've talked to a lot of men the issue of getting visitation and moving forward. I've had a lot of honest conversations with them around that. And here's some of the issues that they've had. They said, listen, I want to do this, man. I already give the mother money, but I'm not trying to go into court and going in and end up paying more than what I initially started with. And I'm going to be honest with you, that's a real live concern. I've had several occasions where men have said that I've walked into court as a plaintiff and I came out as a defendant. What does that mean? I petitioned the court for visitation rights and I ended up getting supervised or limited visitation rights, but an increase in my child support. Well, those are the kind of stories that happen when you go in there and try to do it yourself and she has an attorney. So what I'm saying to you is that, but this is a necessary discomfort that has got to occur. I want you to move forward to seek the visitation. So here's what often happens. Many states and in many counties and across the country, there are opportunities where you can actually go online to understand the visitation plan. That's often called Exhibit A, the temporary type of typical type of visitation orders where a father may get first, third, fifth, a non-custodial parent, because that can also be a mother too. The non-custodial parent gets first, third, and fifth weekends, alternating holidays, alternating birthday celebration. That's your typical visitation plan that you'll see going to many websites. But here's the tricky part about seeking visitation and just putting that visitation plan. If you don't indicate in that visitation order attending school functions, if you don't participate, add in that visitation order attending extracurricular activities, remember the order is going to limit you to that which you have requested. So again, this is why we say you sit down with someone, an attorney that has this expertise that aids you in taking under consideration everything that goes into your visitation. And listen to this. A visitation order is not just for that child at that particular period of time. You're trying to get a visitation order for a 5-year-old or a 3-year-old, 2-year-old. I need you to think of the long range. And what do I mean by that? At some point, that child's going to get old enough, and there's going to be extracurricular activities that's going to take place. You've got to be able to have that conversation. Visitation order also needs to take under consideration, listen to this, when one of you move out of state. So if a visitation order says first, third, and fifth weekend of every month, alternating holidays, well, what happens when a parent moves across the country? And the visitation order had no communication or no discussion with regard to in the event a parent leaves. Yes, I'm telling you to take that under consideration. That if you put in that order that if one parent leaves beyond 50 miles or 100 miles, then they have to share or in the responsibility of ensuring that that child has the routine regular visits. So that means that I need you to also think about what visitation looks like in the event someone moves. Now, let me help you with this. If neither of you are natives of the state in which the child lives, there's a good chance that somebody may want to move out of state. So when you're putting an order together, you have to begin to take that those types of things under consideration. So you get your visitation order, you get your plan outlined. You've also now included all the additional things that you might want to take under consideration, and then you move forward with seeking to get that visitation order. Now, there's some barriers I'm going to tell you that can come up, and these are some real life situations where I'm just going to give some cautions on. Number one, and this is a very important one. Oftentimes, well, it's not unusual to see a parent talk about the discomfort or the concern that they have with the other child, that my child does not know him, or my child cries every time he goes to see her father. I see and hear and have heard that for so many years working with custodial and non-custodial parents. And a lot of times I've even seen custodial parents take the position, I'm not going to leave the child. It tortures me to watch the child go with her father and all the pain that's associated with it. Well, guess what? I'm going to ask you that what do you do when the child doesn't want to go to school and they cry and have a fit? Do you give in there? So whatever that tool and the technique that you use in that regard, I'm going to challenge you to use that tool and that technique as well. Now, with everything that I've outlined around getting visitation and facilitating, I'm going to tell you that the one thing that overrides all of this is your relationship with the custodial parent. Now, you're going to hear people talk about, you're going to see literature and other folks have conversations about this beautiful thing called parallel parenting. And guess what? Parallel parenting is real. What is that? That means that we're going to live this life independent of one another, have absolutely no contact with the other parent. Parallel parenting says that you get the child's school records and I get the child's school records. Parallel parenting says you have your rules in the house, I have our rules in the house, and the two shall never meet. That really sounds good on paper. Parallel parenting, even those lines eventually converge. When the child is sick, when the child has extracurricular activities that requires both parents to be involved. The parallel parenting, when the child reaches a certain age, because you all have a visitation plan, and I'm going to give you all this. Y'all have a visitation plan, and you got that plan down packed, but when that child gets to a certain age, and now you have this unknown variable that neither one of you anticipated, where the child saying, well, I don't want to go over there. My friends, we got a football game going on. And now you're going to start getting the challenges from the child when they get to be that age. So everything I'm saying, and I think this is really important with all the conversation that I'm having here, the most important piece that I need you to wrap around your mind, and this is for the custodial parent and non-custodial parent. Focus on developing a healthy co-parenting relationship. Without it, your child becomes the casualty of war. So fathers, step up, get involved, get comfortable with being comfortable, work on that relationship with the custodial parent, because I want your visitation to be just as formal and just as consistent as your child support payment. I'm Dr. Gary O. White, providing just a little bit of information for those non-custodial parents who desire to be involved but want to improve their legal status.